music is the way I exist. Music is the way I express. It's the way um, it's the way I deal with things. It's the way I handle trauma. It's the way I say what I really mean. And it's most of all, I'm a in real day to day life, I'm a shy guy. I am pretty introverted, and I like to stick to myself, other than like my close friends and family.
That was just a short clip of my nearly hour-long interview with Noah Guthrie, where we discuss how a random house party led to him being cast on Glee and whether or not he'd act again. Also, his thoughts on today's musical landscape. Stay tuned for the rest. I'm Jade Dempsey, and this is episode 2 of the Backline Beat podcast.
Well, cool. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, things are good. Just kind of, I've got a couple shows coming up at the start of next week. So just getting ready for that and doing some recording and stuff. But things are good.
That's with Willie Nelson, right? You got a couple shows?
Yeah, so I've got a couple in Montana by myself, and then I'm going the weirdest. It's the weirdest like week of shows. I'm going to Montana for 2 shows, and then flying from Montana home for like, I don't know, half a day, and then to Florida for the Willie Nelson shows the next day. So it's just like it's really ridiculous. But it'll be fun. I'm excited to play with Willie again. He's always great.
Is that a full band or solo?
Solo stuff. Yeah, all this will be acoustic.
All solo stuff. Yeah, that playing with Willie Nelson, is kind of like, you don't even have to be like a country fan or even a fan of Willie Nelson to understand what it's like, to be asked to play in front of Willie Nelson. It's
really, I've been lucky to do it several times now, and every time is really great. And his whole team is just really awesome, and everybody's super nice. And it's a very easy, like, just kind of go with the flow kind of show. So it's really nice. Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Yeah. What was it like the first time he asked you up on stage with him?
Surreal. I mean, I just, I was happy enough just to open the shows. And these were the first time I ever played with him. I had like 3 shows. I think they were out in California, and I had gotten the call the week, maybe a week and a half before. And it was very short notice, and, just kind of took my breath away when I got the call. And when I went out there, the shows went great, but, I didn't know how it was going to go, because I just didn't know what his audience was like in a live setting. And, but it is kind of like you said, like you don't have to be a country fan to go to a Willie Nelson show. So it works out every time to where the audience is just really great, and they love all sorts of kind of music. And I kind of exist in the more broad Americana folk rock kind of genre, and they loved my music. And I was an acoustic act opening up for him at these shows, and it was like 8,000 people at each show, and it was just like, it's weird to be one person on stage in front of that many people, just trying to steer the ship for 30 or 40 minutes or however long it is. But the first ones, I was just blown away at how nice everyone was, and how welcoming everybody was. And I didn't know if I was going to get to meet him or anything like that. And you don't, when you go to these things, you never like push your luck on that kind of thing. But I had gotten to know his tour manager pretty well, and his like head of security pretty well on those shows. And they were like, well, we'll talk to Willie and see if you can come up and do he calls it the gospel at the end of the show. He always does I'll Fly Away and Will a Circle Be Unbroken. And they said, we'll talk to Willie and see if you can come up. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, sure. Yeah. No, whatever's cool, like if it's fine. If not, it's all good. And then the next day they were like, yeah, come up at the end of the show. It'll be great. I was like, okay. And I've done it, I think every time ever since. So yeah, it's an honor.
Going from, the most recent, you going on tour back, going all the way back. When did you start playing music?
I started playing music, when I was, I think probably around, um, 11 or 12 is when I first started, fiddling around with different instruments. And my first instrument was a bass guitar. Um, and yeah, I, just kind of took to it. And for a while, before high school, I was just kind of a kid that played music when he could. And my parents always played music, and I would, watch them do their thing. Just kind of grew up around it. And then eventually, I got into high school. I started writing songs. I started picking up an acoustic guitar more often, and started writing my own music. Um, and found that I, had a good knack for it, and that I really enjoyed it. And I think up to that point, I hadn't found my real way of expressing myself. I've always been a singer, so that's kind of just come naturally to me. And people, I think probably most people would kind of qualify me as a singer. But for me, I was always trying to figure out kind of how to make that. How can I use my voice to do something bigger than just being a singer? And when I figured out how to start writing music, that's when everything really clicked for me, and when I kind of fell in love with it, and decided that okay, I do want to do this, as a career. So yeah, I've just been around it for most of my life, and decided to pursue it.
It's the you singing kind of influence you picking up an instrument, or was it an instrument kind of brought out your voice?
Probably, I don't know if one really influenced the other. I mean, I guess it would probably be my voice, first, just because I had, before I started writing my own stuff, I was, part of like a blues band, in middle school and high school, where I would just sing. I was just kind of the front man, and I ended up not doing a lot of writing, in that group. And this was again like middle school, high school stuff. It wasn't like we were writing the most profound things in the world, but we were a good band. And I just kind of at one point, thought I would try writing my own stuff, and yeah, just kind of, like I said, just fell in love with it. But the voice that has been there since I was a small kid. So I guess the voice kind of came first.
Who were like your biggest influences, like your biggest artists during this time? Your biggest influences, like artists during this time. Apparently, I can't get that question out.
No, that's all good. Yeah, so I think the biggest one, when I was really starting my songwriting, and I've had a ton of different influences over the years, but the biggest one at the time was Ray LaMontagne. And I've just always been, uh, very attracted to his style of writing. His and I think what I saw in him was this person with the same kind of voice that I have. This really raspy, gritty, very soulful voice. And what he was doing with it wasn't the normal, just uh, normal kind of rock music, or the normal kind of blues music that, I had kind of always been told that's what I should be singing. And when I found his record, um, God Willing and the Creek Don't Rise, I was in high school. I think I was like a sophomore in high school. And um, I wore that record out. I mean, just absolutely loved it, and heard someone with his voice making these beautiful, poetic songs that had so much deeper feel and deeper meaning, um, than just the get up on stage, sing your head off till you can't sing no more kind of thing. Which that's fun, it's great. I love doing that, but like I said earlier on, I wanted to figure out a way that I could use my voice to make something that had more meaning to me. And when I heard his music, um, it completely transformed the way I thought about my voice and what I could do with it.
Um, on your latest album, you kind of your ode, you have a song, Blue Wall, kind of ode to your hometown and where you grew up.
Yeah,
Did that influence your music at all?
yeah, I think so. And I think I found that out um, a little late. I think when I was in high school and stuff, I think I had not as much of a I want to get out of this town kind of thing, but I wanted, I thought I didn't think I would see myself uh, in my hometown for long. And I've toured all around and been lucky enough to tour all over the world and see a lot of really cool things. But as I get older, um, there's really nowhere else I'd rather be than my hometown. It's where my family is. It's where my friends are. And when I started writing Blue Wall, I had just recently. It was, I think, just before the pandemic, like maybe right before the pandemic hit. And um, I had just been on a hike with my wife, and we went to this place called the Blue Wall Nature Preserve, and it's just about 20 minutes up the road from me. And we went there, and there's just this beautiful scenic view of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is what I've grown up with. My whole life is just down the road from the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's this, like one of the oldest mountain chains there is, and it's just got this kind of mystique about it. And we've always lived in the foothills at the bottom of them, and this area has always kind of produced a really cool source of music over the years. And when I started writing Blue Wall, I started figuring out like, oh, I have a deeper connection to this place, I think, than I thought. And then when the pandemic did hit, I had so much time at home that I was able to kind of reconnect with mostly even just the literal surroundings around me. Just going out in nature and just reconnecting with my home. I think you can see my cat back there. There. But yeah, it definitely does. My hometown. I've always wanted to write a song about it that wouldn't come off in a really cheesy way, and I think I accomplished it with Blue Wall. And I've had some good friends of mine who've grown up here as well tell me that I did a good job. So that was kind of the seal of approval. Yeah, and I was worried a little bit when because I have some personal references in there that really wouldn't make sense to most people. But I think the overarching message comes across, and I've played it, for people in the desert, and people have still loved it. So it's I think if you come from a tight knit community of any sort, you can identify with that song.
Yeah. Going from you talking about writing your early songs in high school to kind of your latest material, you kind of got your real start where people got to know you on YouTube singing cover songs.
Yeah,
What made you want to start posting on YouTube?
I don't really know that anything made me want to start. I think it just kind of happened, honestly. I The first thing I ever posted was a cover that I did, "Where the Streets Have No Name" by U2, and they were my favorite band at the time, and still are one of my favorite bands. And I basically took the song and rearranged it into an acoustic ballad and put it up on the internet. And it's this really long uh, story, but basically what happens, I put it up on the internet. Uh, the Ellen DeGeneres show saw it for some reason, and got in touch and was just like, "Hey, we want to put this on our website for this thing we're doing." I'm like, "Yeah, cool, that's amazing. Thank you." And my dad at the time really was the first person that was like, you could probably do something with these if you kept doing them, and so I did, and just kept getting more and more attention, and I got management, like my first manager out of that, and we kept, it was just at that point it was a good strategy, And I think that, it's definitely still a strategy for a lot of people out there today. I don't know if it's quite um, as good of one as it used to be, just because it used to be just the new thing that you could do with YouTube being a thing, and now people have basically TV shows on YouTube. So it was a really great way to get my name out there. I think I got to a certain point where um, I stopped doing them. I stopped filming them and putting them on YouTube. I'll still do a cover every now and again, and I'll record it and put it out. But I got to where I stopped doing them just because it was just not exactly what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be an original artist, and but I had some really cool successes out of that. I did one viral video of a song called "Sexy and I Know It," which is like a weird blues cover that I did of that weird song, and it blew up, and it got me a lot of notoriety, and a lot of different things came out of that I never would have gotten if I hadn't started doing those covers. So it definitely helped me out a lot.
What is your approach to cover songs? Like, does it differ between if you do them, say, with your band versus solo?
Yeah, I think it does. When it's with the band, it's actually, I feel like it's a little easier because I've been fortunate enough to play with the same guys for about 10 years now, and we all know each other really well. We all know each other's tastes really well. So when we're doing a cover together, we one, it's not always as hard to choose what we're doing, and two, it usually comes up naturally. It usually comes up through a rehearsal or something. If one of us has just been listening to a certain song on repeat, chances are we've either learned how to play it at some point, or we're just kind of, fooling around with it in a rehearsal, and then everybody else jumps in, and it just kind of takes off from there, or it doesn't. There's always the option that we spend an hour or so on something, and we're just like, this isn't good. But it seems to flow a little more naturally when it's the full band. When it's just me, I do put a little more thought into it, especially if it's something that I've tried to let this go a little bit, because if I put too much thought into it, I just won't do it. But if it's a song that I don't think, if I think that having my voice on it and my kind of unique delivery of lines, my kind of unique melodic style, if I think putting those things on the song aren't going to change it already, then I usually kind of skip it. So like if it's like I don't cover, I have, but I don't cover a lot of like Chris Stapleton, because, one, there's nothing really you need to do to a Chris Stapleton song. It's just great. He's just incredible. But I don't do it because we have a very similar style already. And I've, obviously been influenced by Chris a lot. And I don't think that another, super rough, gravelly voice singing a Chris Stapleton song is going to like change it too much. Now, that doesn't mean I don't cover him from time to time. Like I'll throw it in a set or something, just if I'm feeling the song, I just want to sing it. But if I'm trying to like make a new thing, then I'm wanting to take something that I can put my own spin on in some way. But it's a fine line, or I guess I should say, I'm trying to find a balance between making a thoughtful recreation of something and not overthinking it to death, to where it just doesn't become anything that anyone wants to hear.
Did you doing covers of songs that are outside of your genre, did you learn anything from that in regards to your own material?
Yeah, I think so. Whether or not I took what I learned and used it is probably a different story. But I definitely, I think, when I was doing the YouTube thing full time, and when I was putting out those covers all the time, a lot of the time I was taking pop songs and reworking them into my own like kind of soulful thing. And you do learn what works and what doesn't. I think that it helped me learn what a good hook is in a song, because a lot of times I'd be covering a song that maybe I didn't at the time. I didn't understand why it was so popular, right? Like I would take a song and just be like, I don't really vibe with this, but maybe I can find one or two things in this song that I do vibe with and run with that. So it helped me dissect music a little better. It helped me, again, recognize a good hook where the hook is. And yeah, I think that I think you kind of learn from everything that you do. So I'm sure that it's some of that baked into my own music somehow.
Transitioning a little bit away from music, but we got to talk about your time on Glee.
Yeah, please.
How did you end up on it?
So I kind of a weird story. I was I played a house show in San Francisco one day for like 15 people probably, and one of those people that saw me perform the next day, I believe, or maybe the next week, he was going to be on a judges panel for a talent competition. I think down in Los Angeles, and so he went and he was on the panel, and he was talking to one of his fellow judges, who happened to be a casting director for Glee at the time, and she was saying, we're having a really hard time finding this one role, and we need. I'll never forget it. They said we need a chubby, shy kid with the voice of Otis Redding, and this guy was just like, I just saw this guy like 2 nights ago, so they ended up exchanging my contact info, and he wrote a message to my dad at the time, which my dad does like a lot of my day-to-day managing and stuff, so he was kind of fielding emails and stuff for me, and he emailed my dad, was like, hey, just so you guys know, I passed your info along to this person. She's probably going to give you a call in a couple of days. We were like, okay, whatever, cool. And I got a call, and they asked me to send in a self-tape audition, so I did. I didn't really want to do it at the time, and I feel kind of weird about that now, but I had, it's not an actor, wasn't pursuing acting in any way, didn't think it was a path for me. So, but I did it anyway because I was I was reminded, thankfully, I was reminded that there's a million people out there that would chew their arm off to get someone from Glee call them and say, please audition. So I did it and ended up going out to Los Angeles and doing another audition there for Brian Murphy, and I was stepping on a plane to get back to South Carolina after my audition, and got a phone call, and I got the part, and it was really quick turnaround. I flew home for 2 days and then got all my stuff and flew out to Los Angeles and lived there for like 8 or 9 months, something like that, and just shot this show. And it was kind of a day-to-day thing on how long it would go, or if it would even be well received or anything, and they just kept writing more parts for me, and I was just stayed on. So it was this really, really cool experience. I'm glad it happened, and I have a lot of fans out of Glee, really loyal fans, which is great. So yeah, I'm very, very lucky.
What, if anything, did that experience teach you, like good and bad, being part of that system?
I think it taught me a lot, but I think one, for me, I think I was 20 years old because I turned 21 on the set, and at the time, I never went to college or anything, so for me, this was kind of my first away from home kind of thing by myself, ever, and this was obviously a lot different than a lot of people's first time away from home, working on a Hollywood set. But it taught me a lot. I think it taught me, one, just how much physical work it is to do one of those shows, from the crew, from the actor's standpoint, from everybody involved, it is just so much time and effort. And these were 14-hour days in a big box theater, and you're just kind of, you're on, you're off, you're on, you're off. It's this just a long day every day, and then you're shooting late nights, and then you're waking up super early the next day, and it taught me a lot about hard work, and it taught me really just in general how TV functioned. I had no idea what to expect at all. I was terrified when I first got on, and luckily everybody was very nice to me, and I think really wanted to see me do well. So gave me tips where I needed them. Definitely I credit the writers in particular, because they were able to see someone who was inexperienced at acting, wasn't terrible at it, but probably needed some help, and they were able to get to know me personally in a way where they could write my character to be pretty similar to how I would normally deliver a line, and that helped a lot. So I really do. The writers helped me a lot, and I had great directors too. So it was just a complete learning experience the whole way through. But it was also some of the most fun I've ever had.
Would you ever act again?
I think if it were the right thing, yeah, I think I probably would. And I don't know if I would do a TV show again. Maybe I would do a movie or something. If that were ever an opportunity, I would also, I'd love the chance to maybe be a bad guy. That would be fun. I just saw my dad play a bad guy in a local theater production, and it looked so fun. If it's the right thing, yeah, I think it would be cool.
Sticking with TV, you what prompted you to try out for America's Got Talent?
That was 2018, I think. At the time, I just felt like it was the right time to try it. I had been approached numerous times by America's Got Talent, like American Idol and The Voice and all that stuff. And they would write to me on a pretty regular basis when the new seasons were coming out. They would ask, hey, do you want to come on the show? And my answer was always no, just because it's never really been my thing. I don't watch a lot of reality music competitions, and it just has never really been my avenue that I saw myself going down. And eventually, America's Got Talent reached out again, and I had a lot of time talking with the producers and stuff on the phone beforehand. It just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. I really don't have a huge or a bigger reason than that. It just felt right, so I tried it, and I'm happy I did it. I think I did learn that I don't think reality television is really for me, as far as just being involved with it. But I got to sing a lot of really amazing songs for a lot of really amazing viewers, and got to be seen by some really incredible talent. And I got to be judged by Simon Cowell, which is now I have that on my musician's resume. And yeah, I think it was overall a really great thing for me. Would I do a reality show again? I don't know. It would be tough.
Just get your band and do a Big Brother. Just put you and your band in a house.
Honestly, we should just do that in general, because it would be we could just put it on a YouTube channel. It would be very entertaining and also not entertaining at all.
Instead of these elaborate veto or whatever, it's just you guys standing on amps for as long as you can, just make it all music
sounds
related.
Good. Yeah, no, that sounds great to me.
Speaking of your band, can you talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, so I can just go down the roster here. So my drummer is Ian Guthrie, which is my older brother. He's also my recording engineer and producer, and pretty much anything I need him to be at the time. I've been making music with him since I was a kid, and it's been really great. And it's always nice to kind of have the backbone of the band be your family. So that's my drummers, Ian Guthrie. On bass, there's Philip Conrad, and then sometimes a guy named Kelly McCarty, and sometimes a guy named Trigby Myers. But Phil, I've known again for about a decade. We all met. All of us kind of connected on my first album, Among the Wildest Things, and I was recording that record with a producer named Rick Beato at the time, and Rhett and Phil. Rhett is my guitar player, Rhett Scholl, and they were both interning at the studio at the time, and we all met there, and they ended up playing on a few tracks. And really, the rest is history. We all just really hit it off. We all have the same sense of humor. We like a lot of the same things. We love the same music. But most of all, when we, it was kind of the first couple times I got them to play with me on some live shows, that I realized that we had something really special together. When us four guys are in the room together, some really cool stuff comes out of it, and that's happened all the way up until today. And I love those dudes. They are like brothers to me. And yeah, that's the band. That's Good Trouble. So we go by Noah Guthrie and Good Trouble.
You being the songwriter, the singer, the guy bringing in the music, do you have a sound in mind for the band when you come into the recording studio, or do you guys kind of all figure out the sound together?
Yes and no. So and now we're actually we're doing things a little differently than we have in the past. But usually, I would say I'm usually the main songwriter when it comes to the band stuff, and it's usually just because I've written the song ahead of time, and I present that song to the guys in a rehearsal or when we get in the studio, and then we all put our own thing on it. They all help arrange it, or in some cases we rewrite some stuff together, and then there are some cases where we write things together from scratch. We just did that recently, and yeah, I think as far as sound goes, our whole thing is to try and just let ourselves be ourselves when we approach the song. And one of the biggest things is to never, no one in the band, this is what I admire so much about them, no one in the band ever tries to steal the spotlight from the song. Hello?
Hi.
Okay, so this one has the microphone in it. All right, so I'll back up a little bit. All good. What was I saying? Oh, so what I admire most about the guys in my band, and just about the way that we function as a whole, is that we're never trying to outshine the song, right? So we're never trying to make sure that I get this awesome vocal riff in here, or Rhett gets this awesome guitar solo in here, if it's going to take away from the meaning and the words and the overall feel and impact of the song that we're creating together. So it's everybody knows when we walk in the room, we check our egos at the door and just try to make the best piece of art that we can. And it usually works out pretty well. And it's also just kind of being upfront with one another. When someone does something that you don't like, you just got to tell them, like, hey, I don't like that. And it's going to be fine. But yeah, I think we just work really well together as a unit. And yeah, I'm proud of that band.
Do you have any advice to singer-songwriters out there who maybe are solo right now that are looking to put a band together?
Ooh. Well, first of all, just I mean, you need to find players, right? So you need to kind of make yourself known in whatever circle it is that you're trying to be in. Um, and there's a lot of ways to do that nowadays. Honestly, the internet helps a lot with that. I find, I make a lot of friends on social media. But I would say try to find a group of musicians that um, not only understand your music and what you're trying to accomplish, but understand you, because it's everything is much harder when the people in the band don't really vibe with each other. If there's not a feeling of camaraderie and there's not a feeling of friendship, um, rarely is it going to work out the way you want it to, at least. Now, there have been a ton of bands, obviously, that have survived and been super huge while not having wonderful relationships. Somehow that can happen. But in my personal experience, I would rather have the player in the van with me, uh, who's just a good person and is accountable, and responsible, and obviously a good player. But that really almost comes second to just being a decent human, because you're spending a lot of time with these people, and especially if you're trying to like build something, to where you're going to have something that's going to last, then you want that to be something that can last with good people around you. So my main advice would be to find the people that believe in the music and believe in you, um, and yeah, and just people that you can, uh, people that you're comfortable with. You want to be able to, when you have that new song idea, as it may be, because a lot of times song ideas are wacky, and they don't make any sense. Um, but they make sense to the person, to the right people, right? So like you want to find those people who understand you, and get where you're coming from. So yeah, that would be my first line.
What has been your best show and what has been your worst show you've played?
Oh goodness. Geez,
Mm.
there have been some good ones and there have been some really bad ones. Um, so I think worst. I'll start with worst. I played a show in Delaware. Trying to think if I even want to name what it was. It was a small festival in Delaware, and it was just an absolute nightmare. I mean, just from the get go, people were, before we even played. I think we had like a 40-minute set or something. Before we even played, people were like puking everywhere in the bathrooms, and like people were just wasted for just because it had been a long day already. Um, the sound was so bad, like the sound equipment, the people running the sound. And I feel bad for them now because I think the people running the sound were really young, and they were like, whoever's sound company it was had like obviously given these young guys the reins to a festival that was just beyond their control. So I don't really blame them as much for it, but in the moment it was really bad. Couldn't hear a thing. It was just awful. And it was one of those things that, like, there are some shows that I would consider awful that no one else in the audience would think so. Um, this one, everybody knew it. Like, people in the audience were like apologizing to us on stage. We're sorry you're having to do this right now. It's really, really funny when you think about it now. But one of the best I've ever had. Let me think here. There's been several really really good ones. We've played a ton in Europe, and have had so many shows over there that are just incredible. The fan base there is really great. Um, they love music. They're hungry for new music, um, and almost every venue there is really on top of the game. The sound is great. Everything's really good. So basically anything in Europe. But I mean, honestly, some of the best shows have been the Willie Nelson shows. That's something I'll never, um, I'll never get tired of it. Every time they ask, I'm never like, I just got to go and do these Willie Nelson. You know what I mean? It's always that like that first sense of like, oh my God, Willie Nelson just asked me to come play some music. Of course I'll be there. So yeah, I mean, I would say those have been some of my best ones. Yeah.
You went 5 years between the Valley and Blue Wall. Do you
Yeah.
ever feel pressured in this day and age of like the now
Mhm.
to make something faster?
Yes. All the time. It's gotten worse too, because now everything is such a singles market. And you really want to have something out every, 8 weeks or so, at least. And for someone like me, I'm a little old school in my thinking, and in my um, creative habits and stuff. I'm not one of those people that, well, this isn't entirely true, but I'm not one of those people that usually sits down every single day and writes a song, or like, tries to write a song. I have other things that I'm doing. I have a wife, I have hobbies, I have, stuff like that. But um, I do try to be creative, you know, uh, quite a lot throughout the week. But to me, I don't. A lot of my inspiration comes from being in the world and just kind of observing. Things don't always, come super fast. Um, they've gotten better, and I've gotten better at that. But um, yeah, I always feel like there is a uh, just a ticking time bomb. Just like, for some reason, and I've felt this way about a lot of things, but I always feel like there's someone like the productivity police or something is going to knock on my door, like, you didn't release a song today, or you didn't make a TikTok. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely feel that pressure. I think a lot of people do. Um, and sadly, I don't think it's really going to change. Um, we seem to, as a culture, just kind of go more and more towards that instant gratification route. And, I'm as guilty of it as anybody else. So I don't think it's changing. I just kind of have to adapt. And also, there are some things, like, I'm also a person that when I listen to music, I'm listening to albums usually at a time. I don't really hit shuffle a lot, like on a playlist. I'm usually diving into a full album at a time, so I'm sometimes a ways behind people in trends, as far as like who's popular right now. I'm a little behind because I'll get, if I gravitate towards a certain artist and their most recent album, I've usually fallen pretty hard for that person and their music. So I'm usually like in their album for a while, learning all I can from it, soaking everything in from it. So that's just how my brain works, and uh, it doesn't adapt well to the new format. But I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to kind of switch to a more singles format in the coming year. So we'll see if it works.
I'm definitely the same in the listening aspect. Like, don't ask, some of my favorite bands, please don't ask me to name all the songs in an album, because
Yeah.
it's like, I've listened to that album I don't know how many times, and I could probably name the first and last song, because you have to click play on that first song and then you get the last song name.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, oh crap, what was that song again? Even like people I've listened to or like interviewed, it's like, I've listened to that album numerous times, and I'm talking to them like, oh, what was that song that I was just
Oh
about to
yeah.
ask you about?
Yeah, totally.
um is can you give us a sneak peek on what is next for you?
Yeah, so right now, well, first of all, me and the band have been working on some new stuff, and we're hoping to release that very soon. And then right now, I'm working on an EP, about a 5 or 6 song EP, which will originally come out as singles. But it's called the Nightbird EP, and it's a lot of songs that I've written um, in the past year that are very closely related to one another in subject matter in style, and they kind of have to do with love and relationships and mental health and nature and how all of these things kind of work together in my life. And I'm really excited about it. It's different sounding for me. So I'm pretty stoked to put out something that I don't know if it's going to be like super different from what everyone else is doing, but it's definitely different for what I'm doing. And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm loving kind of like this trend in more EPs kind of between full length albums, because it's so easy. You can just put it out. You don't have to worry about marketing or any of that. It's just like a nice little extra.
Yeah, it's nice.
Going a little bit, the final few questions. Is there an artist or band out there you think people should know about?
Ooh, I think. So I'm gonna name. Well, I'll name one band that. Actually, okay. Here's two bands. One band that a lot of people do know about, but I think that still not enough people do, is Dolls. Dawes. Fantastic band. I think one of the best bands alive right now. Some of the best songwriting I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, I've listened to the All Your Favorite Bands album. Like that was one of those it was on repeat. I just like fall asleep to that for like a year. Yeah.
I think their lead singer, Taylor Goldsmith, I really do think he will go down as one of the best songwriters of our generation for sure. I don't think there's any doubt about it. And then let me think. I'm trying to think of one that's just kind of more, maybe a little less known. Well, I'll say it's not a band, but it's an artist. One of my frequent co-writers, Maya Sharp. I think she always needs to be more recognized. She writes incredible songs. She's got an amazing voice, and has been honestly been a big influence on me, both in my writing and in my personal life. She's just good people. So yeah, Maya Sharp for sure.
Do you have a dream collaboration? If you could like kind of bring anyone you want onto a song with you.
I would love to do something with Brandy Carlisle. I love her. I love what she stands for. I love the way she produces things. I think she's a freak of nature. So yeah, definitely Brandy.
Okay. Last question before we get into some lightning round favorites. Okay. If you were to meet a civilization who had never heard music before, what would you play them? It can be one of yours. It can be someone else's.
Oh no. Okay. All right, I'm gonna try to just not overthink it. Probably, I would probably play them. Because it depends. Okay, so if they've never heard it before, to me, it's more about like what kind of impression do I want to give them of music, and what. So that's kind of like, okay, what do I cherish about music? Okay, I think I would show them. I think I'd show them like Woody Guthrie, like an old, maybe not This Land Is Your Land. I love This Land Is Your Land, but like maybe one of like a deep cut of Woody Guthrie, because I think to me, the best thing about music, and there's a ton of other bands and individuals that have made a really good example of this other than Woody Guthrie, but to me, at its core, music is a way for people to come together in a community, and a lot of times come together for a better future of some sort. And I think that Woody Guthrie was this very normal person. This was, he was around before he was, one of the original people before people really started getting this kind of celebrity about them in the music business. And um, he was a normal person who wrote songs about everyday people, um, and kind of made a snapshot of America in a way, that I think that a lot of people still can't touch to this day. And he's got, I don't know, probably, it seems like he has 1,000 songs, and I don't know. I think that he embodies what I love about music so much, is this, that you can just be, a normal person and still have something really deep and meaningful to say and convey. So yeah, I think I would go with Woody Guthrie. I'd probably change my answer tomorrow, but that's what I'll go with tonight.
Okay, we're gonna go into some of your favorites. These are
Okay.
first thing to come to mind. You don't have to overthink them, just kind of but you can expound on them a little bit if you'd like. So
All
up
right.
first is, what is your favorite song? I know it's the hardest one.
I'm gonna name one that's my favorite right now.
Okay.
My favorite right now is called Fisherman's Blues, and it's originally by the Waterboys, a band from the '80s, I think. But Dawes actually covered it, which is how I learned about it. I think it's just beautifully written. The lyrics are insane. They're insanely poetic and wonderful, but it's got this nice, like, folky folk rock thing to it. So right now, Fisherman's Blues, but a million other songs too. I hate that question.
Yeah, I know. It's the hardest one. I honestly,
It
I don't
is,
even
yeah.
think I have an answer, but I'm not the one having to
Yeah,
answer
like there's
it.
no way in a million years I can answer it. So
Some people do. Some people are like right away, but I don't know. Maybe it's just their brain works, how their
yeah,
brain works. I think
maybe.
Ariel Posen might just passed. He just
Ah,
passed.
yeah. I see.
What's your favorite album? A little easier.
Ooh, it's a little bit easier. Again, I'm gonna have to go with like one of my favorite albums, but it's really up there for me. So it could, on any given day, it could be my favorite. It would be Deja Vu by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Yeah, I don't really need to elaborate. They're just amazing. It's just a great record.
Favorite band?
When I was a kid, I would say U2, and I think up until somewhat recently, I might have said U2. But I think right now, I actually might tell you like Kings of Leon or the Avett Brothers, maybe. Again, something that kind of changes. But yeah, I mean, I work on like a top threes, top five basis with my
Yeah.
favorites.
I'm with you for the most on that.
Yeah,
I kind of have like my favorites, and then like 2 to 5 rotates based on mood. Favorite venue to play?
Oh, um,
It can be a type of venue if that's easier.
yeah. Well, I mean, my favorite type would probably like small theaters, um, and sometimes small clubs, but I'd say anywhere from like I'd say like 1,000 to 4,000 cap theater. Um, and like sometimes I guess nowadays you'd find it more in like performing arts center type things. Um, don't know. It's just something special about being on a really beautiful stage with the audience is kind of, they're all, you can see everybody still, even like the seats that are high up are kind of close to you. As far as like where I would love to play the Ryman at some point. That would be fantastic.
Favorite venue to watch?
Ooh, it's also really good. Favorite venue to be in, like watching the show, is probably like a small club or even like a dive bar. Um, yeah, I love that, especially if you can smell cigarettes or something. That's perfect.
City to have a day off on tour?
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. just because I had one of my favorite days off on tour was in Germany, and it was a city called Heidelberg, Germany, which is one of the oldest cities there is in Germany. And it was just me and my bass player at the time went on a big walkabout expedition thing one of our days off, and it was just one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been in. I think about that day all the time. So yeah, Heidelberg, Germany.
Favorite movie?
Lord of the Rings.
TV show?
Favorite TV show, man. I gotta tell you, I think we are in like the golden age of TV right now, so it's pretty hard. Schitt's Creek, probably.
Nice. Nice. As a Canadian, it's nice to hear when. Yeah.
Well, I think honestly, like I have watched that show all the way through so many times now, and every single time, I laugh at every joke, and every time I always think like I don't know if there has been a cast that works so well together than that cast like that. It's just perfectly cast. So yeah, I think Schitt's Creek has got my vote on that.
Yeah, I think it was probably like my fourth time watching it through, or something like that. The spot when Alexis puts everything under the bed and David comes in.
Oh my gosh!
Like,
yeah,
I think it was like my third or fourth time watching the series.
Yeah.
Just I started killing myself laughing and like couldn't breathe because I knew it was coming. What was coming?
And it's also like I think that it's a show that they just did it so well. Like they ended when they should have ended. They didn't drag it out. Yeah, I just think that from beginning to end, it's like a perfect sitcom.
Yeah. Favorite food?
Mexican food. Which I think I'm probably going to get after this interview.
These are a few bonuses away from favorites. What was your first concert?
What was my first concert? I think my first concert was a Christian band called DC Talk. When I was probably like 2001 or 2 or something. I'm not really sure, but I think that was my first one.
And also, what was your favorite? What was the first concert you played?
First concert I played. I think that I'm gonna say concert. So I did, I grew up in the church when I was a kid, so I played a lot in church, but I'm not gonna call that a concert because that's not what it was. But my blues funk band in high school, we played a place called the Gathering Spot in Greenville, South Carolina, and I would say that that was our first show, so that was our first concert.
And in a minute, it can be under a minute. What does music mean to you?
Music is the way I exist. Music is the way I express. It's the way it's the way I deal with things. It's the way I handle trauma. It's the way I say what I really mean. And it's most of all, in real day-to-day life, I'm a shy guy. I am pretty introverted, and I like to stick to myself, other than like my close friends and family. But music is the way that I can connect with other people, and it's the way that I can share what's in my heart and what's in my soul with other people. And I know that sounds so cheesy, but that is what it is. I play music. One, because it is the only thing I can do, but two, because it's the only thing I can do.
Well, where can people find you?
You can find me in all the usual places. You can find me on Instagram at only1noah. I think I'm going to change that username soon, so I've just outgrown it, but that's what it is right now. You can find me on TikTok at noahguthrie.music. You can find all my music on Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music or wherever you listen to music. Just search Noah Guthrie and you'll find it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
If you made it to the end and liked the interview, I'd love if you hit that subscribe button and comment on who you'd like me to interview in the future. Thanks again to Noah Guthrie for taking the time, and if you haven't already, check out episode 1 where I interview Tyler Bryant. Find more on backlinebeat.com. Thanks, and have yourself a good one.